This kind of wisdom coming from the fear of God leads us to obedience, to love and trust Him in Him alone. What kind of fear that leads us to wisdom? Upon studying, there are two kinds of fear. Una, ang tawag natin dito is servile, from the root word serve. Okay? The fear of God's punishment or hell, that's why we obey, because we are driven by fear of being punished rather than love. That is servile fear. Okay? There's another one. Kabaligtaran nito is the filial fear. F-I-L-I-A-L. Filial. Filial fear. It's a fear of offending God because of our love for Him. Deep reverence and awe before God's majesty that leads us to God. The servile fear, we obey because we avoid punishment, but this obedience leads to flight, okay? Escaping from God because we don't like punishment. There's the filial fear, we obey God because we don't want to offend God because of our love and reverence to Him that leads us to God with obedience coming from our love. So, we turn our fears towards God rather than reasoning them with our own strength. That leads us to what? The means of grace. So we know now the nature of fear. And if we know this fear that leads us to God, there's this, what we call means of grace. God ordains both the means, as we cultivate that fear, to do what? For us to know what to do now. Anong sabi doon? Nag-utos siya na mag-ayuno ang lahat ng taga-Juda. That's the wisdom coming from the fear of Jehoshaphat. The wisdom now is to seek God, no? Ang sabi sa English, set his face to seek the Lord and proclaim a fast throughout all Judah. God ordains immediate recourse, and this is the means of prayer and fasting. Anong nangyari doon, kapatid? Is it only a personal spiritual discipline? No. The whole nation, prayer, goes in prayer and fasting. This is the corporate discipline, no? Everyone, the whole nation, summoned to seek God, reflects covenant community, responding together in crisis. Ang sabi ni John Calvin sa kanyang institute, to this, let us join a third rule. Ang sabi ni John Calvin, that anyone who stands before God to pray, in his humility, giving glory completely to God, abandon all thought of his own glory, cast off all notion of his own worth, in fine, sa madaling sabi, put away self-assurance. That's the true strips. That prayer strips away self-sufficiency. Our trials should force us to lay hold of God in new ways that we would not have done if we had not been driven to prayer. When we pray, it's not asking God what He will do. It's asking God, ano ang gagawin natin? We are not commanding God to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. Ano ang gagawin namin? O Diyos, we strips away all self-assurance, strips away self-sufficiency. Paano to na pinakita ni Jesus? In Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, in Matthew 26, He said to the disciples, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. This is the fear of Jesus. He is sorrowful, siya ay nababahala, siya ay stressed to the point na, sa medical term, ang tawag dyan ay hematohydrosis, siya ay pinawisan at lumuha ng dugo. Dugo na ang lumalabas na pawis sa kanya. And this is what he said on Matthew 26:39. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Not my will, but yours, your will be done. This kind of wisdom coming from the fear of God leads us to obedience, to love and trust Him in Him alone.